Hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to Rise of the Guardians. This is a donation reward for Venom, and this is a movie that I've known about for a long time because it's been out for a long time. It is an animated movie that centers around Jack Frost, Santa, and a bunch of other kind of holiday-based fairy tale creatures. I guess you could say people, whatever term you want to use, depending on which one. Because I think the Easter Bunny is in this. You have, I think, the Sandman and stuff. Just all kinds of things in that kind of vein. I don't know the actual plot of the movie, but I've seen screen caps here and there throughout the years. I also know there's this weird subset of fans who crack ship Jack Frost with Elsa from Frozen just because they both have, winter based powers. And it's what? I I've never understood the entire crack shipping between two different fandoms kind of thing. It's never made sense to me. Because it's these characters literally have nothing to do with each other. I don't understand. Maybe it's just because when I ship characters, I ship them usually based on the chemistry they have as characters. When I'm shipping characters, it centers around that. I don't usually crack ship. There's maybe a couple exceptions around, but it's not usually my thing because it just doesn't make sense to me. There's nothing to back it up, so why would you do that? It just, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just how my brain works, but yeah. So I felt this was a good movie for the holidays, especially because of, Santa being in it, and the main star being Jack Frost. Now, this is obviously our final reward reaction of the year because the other movie for this week, which is our last week of the year for reactions, our other movie this week is the final part of the holiday special. So, yeah, this is our final donation reward film of the year, and again, that's another reason why I chose this one. Why I think this one is a good one to get to, not just because of the holiday theming, but it's a movie I've wanted to see for a long time because again, I've heard about it plenty. I've seen screen caps and stuff everywhere. Though, I couldn't tell you much of anything about the film in terms of plot and whatnot. It's still something that I have been slightly interested in just to see what all of the constant discussions were about. Because again, I've seen it everywhere. On Facebook, on Twitter, on TikTok. I hear about and see this movie all over the place. And it's quite insane in that regards. And it's been that way for years. It's you just can't escape it, especially during this time of year. People will talk about it. So, it's cool that I finally get to it. And that's kind of the case for a lot of these donation rewards. Because a lot of the time, I just don't take the time to watch movies in my everyday life. Even ones that I am interested in checking out. Unless it's a movie that I really want to see in theaters, I oftentimes don't watch a lot. I just don't find the time. Most of what I watch during the day, outside of reactions and stuff, most of what I'm watching on my own time is YouTube stuff. I have a hard time even watching a lot of shows and keeping up with those. Example, I still haven't seen past the first episode of Loki. I've still only seen, I think the first 4 episodes of Gen V. It's and I mean Loki season 2, by the way. So it's I'm really behind on a lot of stuff, and I don't know when and if I'll catch up to all of it. It's just kind of always up in the air. So, yeah. Right now, I kind of rely on these donation rewards for seeing a lot of these films. That's why I put that big list in the Discord, which I really need to update at this point, I think. But that's why I put that in the Discord server. I have that big list of ideas, all these different movies that I haven't seen and would be interested in seeing, even some that I'm not even super interested in, but, I wouldn't say no to. Of course, most things I wouldn't say no to, but still. Just ideas to go off of. And so, yeah, that's why I always suggest if you want to make a donation and don't know what to donate for, though, look at the list. Um, but yeah, so we're going to see what this movie's about, and hopefully, uh, it ends up being an enjoyable one. So, when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the movie. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So I looked it up as I typically do in between the reaction and the afterthoughts and everything. And I learned that this movie, while being pretty well received, not like amazing, not like the best received animated movie or anything, but pretty well received nonetheless. It did poorly at the box office and was considered a failure. It lost money and just wasn't. It just didn't do well, and that can happen. A movie that is well received can be a box office failure, but it's really disappointing because this movie was really good. Like, this could be a new yearly Christmas tradition for me, just like Home Alone and Klaus and Jingle All the Way and other movies like that that I watch every year. This could be a new holiday tradition for me to check out again and again every year. This was impressive. Like, for the time this came out, which let me check again. I think it was 2012. Just check to be sure here. Yes, November 2012. For the time, like, it's not the best animation. I've seen better from that time period and even earlier. But while not the best, it's still serviceable. It's still good. It's just, it could have been better. But even despite that, it's like the characters are charming and likable. The voice performances are fantastic. The story is relatable and connectable, something that a lot of people can, understand. The desire to be seen. My only issue with it is the end. And I knew it was going to happen. I knew they were going to take that route because it's a children's movie or a family film, you could say. But it went the safe route, and I'm kind of disappointed by that. What I mean is that I really, really wish that Pitch had been redeemed in the end. And listen, I know people are going to say, oh, but that's the safe route, to just redeem the villain. Not all villains are redeemable and stuff. And it's like, I agree with that. Not all villains are redeemable. But the problem is, Pitch had a point. Here's the thing. Pitch is fear. And the thing that they were trying to unfortunately get across in this is that they were going that fear had to be stopped. And I don't like that message. Because like I said, fear is important. Like, yeah, none of us want to feel fear. None of us want to experience that, but fear is important. It keeps us safe, it keeps us alive. We need fear. Just like any emotion, it is important. And this movie just treats it as if it's something to be defeated, as if it's something to be overcome. And overcoming your fears is not a bad thing, but some fears are there for a reason. It keeps people safe. It keeps people, like, acting in a way that's going to protect them and others around them. And I think it would have been a much more mature and better handled ending if that was acknowledged. And if they accepted Pitch as one of them. Because they realize he's just as important to children growing up as they are. That fear helps shape people just as much as anything. Fear is not inherently negative, and we really need to get rid of that notion. Like, it sounds silly to just say that it's the better option for the villain to be redeemed here, but it is, because of the specific story being told. Having it in the end to where it's just like, oh, fear is something that needs to be stamped out. It's like, no. Again, there's nothing wrong with overcoming certain fears, but certain fears need to be experienced for you to properly grow up. Again, it's necessary. So that's the one thing I had a problem with this movie. I knew they were going to do it, though, because of course they were. You got to have the villain be defeated. But I like that more recent animated films are delving more into the depths and the gray area of things, rather than just looking at it like, oh, bad guys are bad. And again, there are some occasions where that is the case. And there's nothing wrong with having occasionally a villain who is just evil for the sake of evil. But honestly, like, Pitch wasn't even portrayed as evil in this. He was portrayed as someone who was sick of not being seen and not being understood. And literally at the end, it's just like, oh, yeah, we're not going to see you or understand you. Fuck that. It's like, you're literally contributing to the problem. Don't you see that you're literally contributing to this entire problem? It's the one big issue I had with this. It does ruin the movie from truly being, like, truly great for me. You know what I mean? Like, the movie is really, really, really good, but if that one thing were fixed, it would be, like, top tier. Absolutely. But the rest of the movie was fantastic. I loved the unique take on everything. The way the characters are portrayed, the fun elements of it, which obviously very intentional. And even the backstory stuff. And yes, I even liked the angst aspect of it. There is aspects of angst and, teen drama kind of shit. And that's definitely part of it. But it's done well. I like that they never make Jack feel like he's a bad guy at first. Like, he's just a mischievous troublemaker, who's not even that much of a troublemaker. He just likes to mess and play around. He's not hurting anyone. In fact, he actually actively goes out of his way to make sure that Jamie is okay during that entire sled incident. He goes out of his way to protect him, but also still have fun at the same time. Again, we see he's not a bad guy. He's just kind of jaded because of everything that has happened to him, or I guess technically not happened to him. The fact that he doesn't really seem to know his purpose because no one believes in him, no one sees him. I really liked just the kind of rivalry, but also like friendly rivalry aspect we see between the characters. Um, Even if it starts off with, like, for example, Bunny hating on Jack and everything, but after a while, like, they grow like this friendly rapport with each other. But I also like seeing like the friendly rivalry between all of the Guardians as like they're gathering the teeth and everything, just joking around and all. It's really nice to see. Um, and there's one scene that I could see someone arguing didn't feel entirely necessary, but I would disagree with that on. And that's the entire scene and an entire plot point with Jamie's sister escaping with the snow globe into the Warren, and them finding her later, and, all that ensued after that. But to anyone who would say that is unimportant, I challenge you to actually watch the movie again, because that was exceptionally important to bonding these characters together, but also to show them Jack's value, to show them the value of fun, and to showcase how, despite being the guardians for all these children around the world, they've kind of lost touch with what it actually means to care for these children, to be around them. And so I like that scene touched on that, because I feel like that was exceptionally important to their story and helped make the themes and messages a lot more poignant. Um, it was obvious that Sandman wasn't going to stay quote unquote dead. That was just not happening. His death early on relatively in the film was very clearly meant to be a temporary thing. It's like, oh, he was defeated, his sand was corrupted and everything. But he was always going to come back in the climax. And yeah, it felt like a really good moment when he did. Even before he actually fully came back, when you start seeing the sand going around in the sky and everything while they're fighting Pitch, it's like, oh yeah, guess who's back? And I even said that well before he actually returned, because it's like, it was obvious what was happening here. I like the down moments, I guess you could say, like the parts where Jack is starts to fall and fail. He loses the trust temporarily of the other Guardians, and is even defeated by Pitch, with his staff being broken and all. Um, it's very, very standard, you could say, for a movie, especially a family movie like this, to have that kind of uh, moment of failure. It's a very common thing, but I think it worked. I think it worked because it showed that Jack was initially doing this for partially selfish reasons. That he wanted his memories, and that was his reason for helping out. And so it shows that his downfall was kind of his own doing, but also he was tricked. It shows both sides to that. And because of that, it feels more satisfying when he does realize who he is and why he was chosen as a guardian. It makes it more satisfying to see him build that rapport back up to reunite with the Guardians and help defeat Pitch as one of them. Even if I don't agree with the defeat aspect of it, um, it's still well handled. I really did enjoy this. Apparently, there was talk about wanting to make a sequel, but they just never have gotten that off the ground. It's been over a decade now, and while there is still a possibility, it's probably not going to happen. Again, part of that is definitely because of how much of a financial failure this was, um, even if it was critically well received. Um, and there is a video game apparently, um, so that's interesting, but probably not something I would go through playing or whatnot. For multiple reasons. From what I saw of it when I looked things up, it just doesn't quite look like my kind of game. Plus, I don't usually play movie tie-in games. Like, those have never interested me. Um, but yeah, so I really like this though. Even with even with the like the small issues I had um, with it not being perfect, it's like that's fine. I mean, pretty much nothing is perfect. There's a handful of movies I honestly consider to be perfect out of how many hundreds or thousands I've seen in my life. So, yeah. But I want to hear what you think. So tell me in the comments below, what are your thoughts on Rise of the Guardians? And for now, I'm Connie and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.